Welcome back to the Social Impact Level Up podcast. This is where we blur the lines between business, nonprofit, and impact. I'm your host, Wendie V, and I'm a social impact strategist here to help you build a successful and sustainable legacy of social change. This is our season finale, and I hope that you appreciate hearing all of the stories of social entrepreneurs living limitlessly. In tonight's finale, you'll hear more about my upcoming collaboration with Ashley Wynn-Grimes called Elevate Her Worth, a holistic business reset for entrepreneurs, taking place April 14th, 2024 in Germantown, Maryland. We invite each of you to come out and join us for this event. Stay tuned for a few bonus episodes to wrap up this season, and we'll be back next season for season 3 in the spring of 2024. Can't wait to see you there, and thanks for being part of the collective. Let's jump right into today's episode. All right, and we're live. Hey. Don't worry. We're just gonna get into it today. It's funny. Welcome everyone to this final episode of the Social Impact Level Up podcast. This has been an intense season where we've been interviewing about 40-ish people throughout the season, talking about how can you live limitlessly as a social entrepreneur, helping others and serving in your passion. It's been really awesome. And I am excited to end the season on the live that was just sort of came up on a whim, had been needing to finish the episodes for the season so we can move on to the third season. And I said, hey, why don't I talk to my collaborator, friend, Ashley, partner in crime, and see what's going on around some of the things around holistic business that we've been talking about that we could bring to other folks, to our audiences and people on a live and in the podcast. So that was how this got started. Now, this is all related to an event that we're doing called Elevate Her Worth. And we'll talk more about that event today too. So I just wanted to introduce Ashley, talk a little bit about our collaboration. And yeah, let's get into the topic. So tell us who you are and, how do you make an impact in this world?
Well, my name is Ashley, and how do I make an impact? Oh, that question is way too big to answer in a sentence, first of all. Like, what? I showed up today. No, making impact, I feel like is a big responsibility that every human has access to, the right to make. So I don't feel like it's just a thing that makes you special or me special or anything like that. I think we all have the right to make impact, even if it's on one person at a time, even one conversation at a time. And so I take that very seriously. I take my role as a human very seriously. So I think everywhere I show up is an opportunity to make impact. So that is probably the shortest version to that question.
And I think it's a legit question that I ask every guest to start out in the intro, because I always want to know what people think their impact is, right? And I love your answer. It's like, all of us have the potential to make impact as humans if we show up in that way. And it doesn't have to be anything special about me or you. There's things you could do every single day to help others and really make a difference. And I thought that about the entrepreneur community is I think so many people get that and come to it from a mindset of, I want to help others, and therefore I'm going to use my purpose, my mission as a vehicle to do that. And I'm just curious, like, how did you get started as an entrepreneur and decide, oh yeah, I'm going to start I'm going to start moving in this direction?
Golly, I mean, I just think it's because I'm rebellious in that way. Like, I just don't want to do anything that like life told me I was supposed to do the way they told me to do it. So I decided to do the exact opposite, right? And I did it in the most rebellious way possible, like seriously. And it was literally go to school, get your degree, get married, have your kids, go through the whole thing, right? And one day I looked up, I was a victim of cyber theft. $15,000 was stolen out of my bank account. I was wondering how the F blank bomb can this thing happen so simply and quickly? And I'm sitting here just working for a paycheck here. Like it just didn't. It did. The math wasn't math and real. It wasn't equating in my head. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do something, and I want to do it uniquely. And so and when I tell people this, they're always like, clutches pearls. Ashley decided she was going to go into the cannabis industry and become what we call a cannabis nurse, and that's literally how it started, and it was just me fumbling the ball and trying to figure it out, person to patient to client to, and beyond, and it just has worked, and trial and error, and that's my story.
I think entrepreneurship is that trial and error for sure. And we all have a different story. That's the thing I love about this is that you see everybody's story is different. I think a lot of people listen to the podcast know same thing. I lost my job. It was like not planned that I would be an entrepreneur. I thought I'd be working in the government forever and I'd be like with my golden handcuffs and my 401k, super happy and chilling. Yeah, I think everyone thought I mean, I've been in the government for 15 years since I was 25. Like that was my career path. And so choosing to do something as radical as not having a paycheck every 2 weeks. Like I think people thought like, okay, how long is she going to last? I mean, we're rooting for you. We want you
Right.
to, we want you to do the damn thing, but we're also kind of wondering like, when you going to give this up, come back to the government.
Right.
It was a funny conversation when I was like, no, it's still 2.5, 3 years in. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
we're still going. Yeah. So it's interesting to me all the time. It's like, I'm still here. I know people play in a way trying to see, do I want to pursue entrepreneurship? How do I get started? Wondering, I know at one point I didn't know how businesses got started. So thinking about that and that space that I was in right in the transition, or you were just describing in that transition, there's things that you have to learn so that you can keep that balance and like actually choose entrepreneurship versus seeing an overwhelming thing. I'm trying to do a side hustle, try to do my 9 to 5, try to do my family at this point, like whatever all you have going on. So what would you say was that thing that kicked you over that barrier and said, no, like this is for me. I'm gonna choose my passion. I'm gonna move forward with this versus I just could go back to whatever I was doing before, which for you was nursing, for me was the government.
Yeah.
So, how did you keep going past that first barrier of like that I'm choosing this road?
So it felt like it wasn't a choice. Like I don't know. It didn't feel like a choice to me. It felt like that's just what needed to happen. Um, and I feel like every decision that I made was because it needed to happen. Like people are suffering. And specifically the area that I went into, cannabis nursing, there are a lot of people who do not have access to cannabis medicine who literally suffer in silence every day. The most vulnerable populations. And it's a cash business. And the people who need access to it and don't have access to it should have access to at least information. And I knew I could give it. And so that wasn't a choice. Go back to your comfy job or to, save the lives of the people who need access to the information that's just sitting there lying dormant in your head and you should be blessed about. Yeah. Like that to me wasn't, but I think as entrepreneurs, the ones that are successful, the ones that I've seen be successful, have a lot of audacity and are going to do the radical things that people feel like are options. Whereas us, we make the hard decisions that don't feel like they're options at all. And I think that's the difference for a lot of people. I don't know if everybody should be an entrepreneur, but I know there are certain qualities that,
So you should
yeah,
definitely say that not everybody should be an entrepreneur because it's not for everyone, right? And I think
not,
that choosing your own path, it for me was a daily choice where I had to wake up and say, I'm not going to choose to look for another job, or I'm not going to choose to get distracted in this way. I'm going to go down the road of, starting my brand, building my business, setting my services up, doing my website, like all those little pieces that most of us have somehow or another gotten done in some way, shape, or form. We
yeah.
just got some good referrals that kept it moving. Like there's a lot of things that in those early stages you could really get fumbled if you don't consistently make the choice to wake up every day. And I think choose entrepreneurship and
Mhm.
choose to keep going to that next step. And anything can trip you up. You could get delayed on the website. You could get delayed on picking out your services. You could spend too much on a coach that's boo,
Right.
Like,
Right.
so many ways to get caught up in that early phase. So I just want to address this comment from my girl. This is actually my college roommate, my grad school roommate at Columbia.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, yeah. So I love you, Jess, for being here. She said, courage and so scary. Thank you for having this conversation. I mean, I think it's important to talk about that because as women in our 40s, 30s, late 30s, 40s, 50s, sometimes the paths that we choose, or even the things that happen in your life, like family and career and changes in your health or changes in your parents, like anything can mean that your circumstances have opened the door for another opportunity.
Yeah.
And you may not see that as an opportunity. You might see it as a deficit and continue to bang your head against that previous path wall. But if you, like what Ashley and I are talking about, see it as like, hey, no, this is the thing for me and go for it. it might be you finally find your purpose. So you finally find that calling of which you're supposed to be doing, but you were too busy over here banging your head against that wall. And I don't know if you feel that way, but that's definitely the way my journey had went.
Yeah, I mean, essentially what you're describing in my mind, the way I see it is like those are different timelines, right? Like you can choose your timeline. You can manifest the reality that you want for yourself just through the decision making process alone. So the decision to stay and bang your head up against the wall and something that you're miserable in, that is a choice. And yeah, it probably seems scarier to choose the latter, which is something else, but banging your head up against the wall, that choice seems kind of miserable too. So I mean, I don't know.
I know, right? Scary, miserable, scary, miserable. I'll go with it. We go with scary. Like, I don't know. I feel like this is, and it's funny because I feel like people are just getting introduced to our regular conversations. Like these are the things that we talk about all the time as we have our brunches and our lunches and things together. And this is the purpose of why we wanted to have a day for women to just come together and talk about all those things that have been part of the journey, because
Yeah.
sometimes there isn't this sisterhood or camaraderie. There's almost kind of like a unspoken like respect. Like I see you over there doing your thing in your sphere in your niche, and that's cool. And how successful are you? Okay, cool. I see your metrics, but it's not really like an open, welcoming kind of learn from each other, vibe together, collectively elevate kind of conversation all the time. And I think that was the difference when I met you is we were both like, da 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 da. So that like
Yeah.
all of the topics, all of the things. And it was such a beautiful energy. And I just wanted to be able to share that with other people. And so I think this live is just a way to do that for folks who couldn't join us for the in-person event. But do you want to talk about like when I introduced the event to you, like what were you thinking? And I was like, hey, let's do this thing together.
I felt like it was right on time. Like I wasn't shocked. I wasn't surprised. I just felt like it like you mentioned before, we came together and it just felt like a very authentic energy and we were like genuinely trying to support each other in what we were going through in the moment. And I think that camaraderie like naturally just led up to us wanting to be together. So it felt very natural. It felt almost predictable if we were watching a movie or something like that. Like, that's kinda what it felt like. "Okay, well, next scene, guys," you know?
And it's
And
like Oprah and Gail meet and they're like, hey, let's actually do this together instead of you
right,
by yourself, Oprah.
so it felt really good, and I just think it's so important that we do have more spaces where we can open up and be authentic with each other and you know, and here's the other thing, the type of conversation too. There are so many conversations that just go untalked about. We talk when we mo women don't talk about money, women don't talk about business, women don't talk about parenting issues, women don't talk about physical issues, we don't talk about cannabis like, we don't talk about there's a lot of conversations that just don't get had, but the crazy thing is we're all going through the same thing.
And I think that sometimes when you blend the wellness and business, they go hand in hand for me because of the idea that you have to be able to show up to do the things that you're supposed to do to serve your clients or to be able to show up to have your products and things be sold. So you can't kind of just operate in a vacuum of like, oh, all my time is going to be spent on just my business or all my time is going to be spent, with my family or on solving this problem. Because the other beautiful thing about entrepreneurship is you get to decide where to allocate your time. And I think that's the first fumble in entrepreneurship might be, when you're trying to allocate that and not knowing, quite how to do it. But if you do have all these different priorities in your life and you can use your time wisely to be able to show up in those places, you could have, when some of my friends have a 15-hour work week or a 20-hour work week, and the rest of the time is dedicated to those needs of the family or some of those other issues that have come up. And I think that, at least for me, like my health and other topics, my wellness journey, my fitness, like all these other things, those are part of that finding balance time that I have to allocate for myself throughout the week. So I can't keep thinking, oh, I've got to show up 9 to 5 in my business because then I just sort of locked myself into what I left.
I know, is it? And we all do that. I feel like we all go through a version of that where we create the golden shackles that we just tried to leave in the first place. But I will say this, I feel like in the beginning, because we still have to have structure. You know what I mean? And so in the beginning, what we do is we'll be like, okay, this is the only thing that it makes sense is to work from 9 to 5. Like it's the only thing that seems rational in our heads because that's what we're familiar with. But then once you get to this point where you realize, like, wait, I don't have to do that. I'm gonna I'm gonna meditate right now. Like the second that you give yourself permission to cross that like invisible line, it's like all of a sudden it's like, wow, now the world of possibilities open up. So yeah, I feel
Oh,
it.
man. I feel you. We were talking about like what is this definition of your soft life success, right? Like, well, mine was today when I got a deep tissue massage for like 2 hours. And I mean, every single everywhere is. I literally fell off the table because I was so soft. I couldn't hold my whole body. I was just let me just fall onto this couch right here. Plus, it's a Monday, and like people probably would be like, "Well, why weren't you out entrepreneuring, earning money on like a Monday afternoon?" And I'm like, "Because I was getting a massage." Right. I knew that was fantastic too. It was such a
And we
good use of
and we
time.
deserve massages, and massages support the endocannabinoid system, and massages help us feel relaxed, and so that way we can be energized for our next client, right?
Well, it just
Like
helped me not feel like, when I'm sitting and standing and, when on my standing desk or my sitting desk, either way, my back was hurting. Right. So now I'm like, oh my God, I feel like a 12-year-old. And then I've got mobility. I haven't had since I was 15. This is great. Okay. So Jessica asked her the question, which I love that you're still here, Jess. I'm going to show this question. Um, as I'm excited about my mobility. Let's talk about, do you think we need to reconsider the 9 to 5 40-hour work week? There's so many other people, perhaps better option. So many other and perhaps better options. My body and mind wants to pause at 3 p.m. What
well,
suggestions do you have for others who want to explore different work schedule and more work-life balance? I'm going to let you answer this because I think I have like an odd answer, but you answer. What do you think?
so the first thing that came to mind and as you were reading it is taking into account our human design. Not everybody is intended to work a full 40-hour work week and don't have and literally do not have the capacity to do so. So it should be considered to take like real intentional pauses and breaks in your work. I know in the nursing field, breaks aren't really breaks, but they're like moments in time where you're technically still working and eating at the same time. Um, so
Is
you're
that possible? And you also go to the bathroom too, though.
right. But at the same time, no, we just never make it to the bathroom. We just kill our kidneys in the process. Like we are just so sick this way. And think it's totally normal, right? So, but one of the things that comes up for us is to really take a second to like leave the place that are we're expected to work. Like leave the unit. Find a place to really sit and at least spend like 10 minutes of mindful eating, even sitting back and meditating for a couple seconds, taking a 5-minute nap, like that's a real thing that I'm a projector by nature. That those are real things that I need in order to get through the day because I won't make a full I just won't make it. I'll be cranky, I'll be foggy, I won't be clear, I will not perform. Like there's a whole list of things that just cannot happen just because my energy sustainability just won't make it through. And so leveraging different tools like that, meditation, grounding, eating properly, mindfulness, all that, I think will contribute to a better work life balance. I mean, most of us, and I'll be honest about this, most of us can't get out of a 40-hour work week and we have to be there and we have to save face. We have to show up. So, what do you do while your face is present to help you create balance for yourself?
Yeah, and that's the thing I was gonna say is sometimes you're restricted by the hours that your work allows you to work, right? So, I mean, I've heard some flexible hours where people are like, "We don't care if it's 3 in the morning, you just get your work done and we gotta keep it moving." But there are a lot of places, like where I used to work in the government, where there's only certain schedules you can subscribe to, and the one that I had was actually a 9-hour workday and every other Friday off, and
Uh,
so that's actually a nice way to get some things done, but you're still having to work that 9-hour day, which makes it even longer than the 8 hours, right? So it's
yeah.
even more torturous. So then had decided, okay, I'm going to work the 9 hours, but I'm going to try in the middle of it to like work out for part of it and then eat like for another part of it. And I was doing this like half hour situation. It never really quite balanced itself out.
Mhm.
And so I think my point is like if your body wants to pause at 3 p.m., you probably have to find a way to do that because your energy level has probably gone so low by that time that the rest of the time that you're there is not very effective anyway, right? Like if you didn't take the pause.
Yeah.
So is there an option to like within the schedule that you have to maybe make your lunch a little later or try to figure out if can I take like if I work an extra half hour, can I take a half hour break at 3 p.m. or does that not work at all for my kids and my schedule? There's like a lot of other thoughts to do, but it might be something as simple as like, can I take a 15-minute break to journal and like leave my desk and
Yeah.
go to another part of the wherever I'm located? I have now my dog who's barking in the background that I walk every day at 4 p.m. So regardless of whatever else is going on, I have to get up at 4. Like 3:30 or 4, I gotta get up. I'm moving, I'm outside, I'm walking for like at least 20, 30 minutes. But I do still come back and work some days till like 6 or 7. And it doesn't bother me to do that because I've taken that like pause and gone all the way outside and like completely separated from the work and then come back and check back in. And I find that I'm able to check in for like those solid 1 or 2 hours that I have left to work. So
Well,
that's just what works for me.
you know, and I think you make a good point there too, because we like as entrepreneurs, we tend to work more hours than 40 hours anyway throughout the week. And the ironic thing about it is because we're so driven, we're so passionate, it fills our cup. Like I think that also plays a part in why we're able to sustain that energy in a way. Like I wrote a whole book in 20 days. Like, how is that possible? Right? You know, like, but I was so into it. I was so driven to do it. Like it, the necessity like met the need in the moment. And so I think part of it too is finding work that really satisfies you. And I guess that goes back to the original question, career change sounds scary. Well, could it be that if you went somewhere that really filled your cup, that maybe you could work past 3 and maybe even work till midnight? I don't know. Like, and you would never even notice.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I find myself on the weekends making stuff and working and things that are considered work, marketing or other things that are fun, right?
Mhm.
Because some of the stuff that we do as entrepreneurs, you got to say it's fun. Like it's not like we're toiling away in a dungeon, pushing buttons and turning widgets around. We're actually out networking, meeting people, making connections, helping people with problems, solving problems. Like there's a lot of joy that comes out of the work you do as an entrepreneur. So I love what you're saying is like, yeah, maybe there's the other experiences that will allow the flexibility and the joy. And then the work doesn't feel like it really feels like, hey, I'm serving in my purpose and I'm motivated to do more every day that I show up,
Yeah.
which is always cool. So I know we started talking about the schedule and that piece, and I wanted to make sure we got to that in this episode. So I think it is really important. You said early on, you had to keep like thinking about or fine tuning your schedule because you do have to work at it when you
Yeah.
first choose entrepreneurship to hold yourself accountable to do the things you need to do to be successful. So how did you work that initially? Like, with going from a 9 to 5 where things are, prescribed for you or whatever shift you were working was prescribed for you. Like you couldn't even use the restroom. You couldn't even eat lunch, pretty rigid. To then having to be entirely in charge of your time. How did you make that transition and do it in a way that didn't
So
like it didn't have any kind of disruption for you? Or maybe it did. I don't know.
it did, absolutely. So, leaving my job, I feel like it was a significant mourning experience. Um, I had worked in the hospital my entire adult career. So the idea of leaving a hospital was seemed glorified and glamorous but when I actually did it, I was like, it was a total culture shock. I was like, whoa, I had to go through the whole process of, wait, so I'm not showing up to a hospital today. But specific to time, I think I actually had the opposite problem with time management where I would overexert myself. So I would work constantly. Like that's all I could think about. That's all I wanted to do. That like you could not stop me because I was determined that this thing was going to be successful. And I felt like the only way that this could be successful was if I was always doing something. Because if I wasn't doing something, that means I was doing nothing. And therefore, how could I have the right to not have a job if I'm not doing something? And so, yeah, so that was kind of the trap that
Oh no,
I
I went through that phase too.
fell down.
Now is the phase where I built 2 websites. I don't know why. To this day, I probably got like 4 websites and like 20 domains. Wait, I'm like, how was that for tenants? Oh, I remember that was also the phase where I started this podcast with a glass of wine and just tinkering out of my laptop at 9 p.m. on a Friday night. Right. Like I went through this intense phase of working hours that were not only odd, but it was just like I had already worked the regular hours. Now I'm
Yeah.
still here.
Yeah. And that's not good either. So I left a burnout situation in my last corporate position, but then created a burnout situation for myself. Like, and I'm sitting there looking around like, oh, sis, this looks familiar. You're burnt out again. Well, this time you have nobody to blame.
You only have yourself to blame when you're
Right.
going to pray. So it is a little messy. I mean, but I appreciate that, right? Because you see your own faults and your own quirks and the things that you've done professionally and your experience and how it all wraps up together in how you do things. And I think you express that piece of the pressure to be successful. Like, how do I have the right to not go to somewhere at 9 to 5 every day and try to make this work if I'm not doing everything I can to make this work for every waking moment and then some, right? And it's maybe not healthy to think that way. So at some point, I think you like get past that breakdown of like my body maybe isn't doing what it needs to be doing to be to sustain this. My mind isn't as sharp as it needs to be to sustain this. And I think eventually you get to that point of like, I need to make a change. And for me, the change was I'm okay with starting my workday at 10 a.m. And it was like this permission. I remember I was working through it with my coach and she was just like, why are you having this resistance? Why are you still like feeling like you need to be like sitting down doing something at 8 a.m.? And then I was like, wait a second. I realized, oh, it's just programmed into me
Yeah.
to have that thought process of I need to do that. But if I allow myself to realize that I could work out at 8 and be ready to work by 10, and I will have already done my well-being stuff for the day. I already met my goal of wellness for the day. And now I'm like happily starting my work day. It actually mentally that permission just changed everything for me. And it opened up so many other doors to like freeing up my schedule to be happier in my business.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What how did you do that? You like switched it over.
That's what I call shadow work. I think that's really what that is really confronting some of the determined constructs that we haven't had control over and that drives us subconsciously. And they will show up in entrepreneurship. And this goes back to why like talking about holistic care of the entrepreneur becomes really important. It's not just about what you know and what you can do and how you can make some money. It's how can you take care of yourself? And we're talking not just the physical body, getting up and exercising. We're talking about mental stability and clarity, emotional stability and clarity, and even spiritual stability and clarity. Because a lot of people don't realize that spirituality comes up very often because you're often doing things that haven't been set, like hasn't been taught to us or pre-programmed to us. So we're constantly meeting ourselves at these resistance points. And that's a lot of the reason why we fail.
Yeah, and those resistance points can sometimes be created by yourself, and you're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I'm just over here by myself in my own head. I need to process this
Yeah.
for a day." And then you,
Right.
in entrepreneur land, to like taking a day to just think is like a totally legit.
Yes,
That
for
is a legit
real.
work activity.
Yes, ma'am. You need to cry. I love when I hear entrepreneurs say, "You know what? I just spent the day crying." Good.
Yeah, the emotional release. It's funny sometimes if I know I'm gonna have a big day, I'll do a pelvic floor release workout or like a yoga routine or something, just because I know there's gonna be a lot of motions in the hips, and I'm like, let's get this moving around. And I think the other question I wanted to ask you that I tend to ask a lot of our guests on the podcast is, as you have gone through your journey, at what point? Because I mean, nursing is absolutely a service oriented career path, and that this before you did this, that's what you did. So it was probably before entrepreneurship. But at what point in your journey did you decide I'm going to serve, and that's I'm going to serve others, I'm going to help others, and that's part of my purpose here or my path? How early or at what point did you kind of like make that realization and choice?
I was a little girl. That's just always been a part of who I am is this feeling of this need to help other people, which is why I became a nurse in the first place. So for me, probably as early as 7 years old. It was between being a teacher or being I really wanted to be a pediatrician because I like kids. I still like them, but my patience for them has gone down dramatically.
Oh, but that might be because now you're a mother. So,
That's probably the biggest thing because I am a mother and, and there's an energy about children that I just can't meet all the time. You see what I'm saying? And so, and I know that and I recognize that about myself. But in certain capacities. So anyway, it was either becoming a teacher or becoming a pediatrician. I didn't know anything about being a nurse. It was actually one of those things where somebody was like, "You know what? You really should be a nurse." And I said, "Oh, I don't know what that is." And then signed up and applied to become one. And then I went to my nursing practicum and I realized that being a nurse for these children wasn't going to work out for me because that was a lot. I had to put an NG tube in the baby's nose to stomach, and yet nope, that was the end of that pipe dream. And then, so after that, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I did know that I continue to want to help people. So early in my career, it felt amazing to just see people get better. It felt amazing to know that I was contributing to, just a healthier life, things like that. But at some point, it became not enough, just because of the healthcare system that we work within. And so I was like, okay, there has to be something more to this. It has to be something more to helping people, and I can do this. I got my master's degree in nursing education. And again, I wasn't going to be faculty in nobody's college. That wasn't going to work. Ash, come on. Like, what? And so, fast forward later, I said, okay, I'm going to work for a big corporate health system. And I was like, you could help a million people this way. Like, you can have all the impact in the world this way. But it was just too big. And again, the system just really interfered with that. And so I decided to take things on my own terms and try a different route and a different path to being able to help people. And in the process of trying to help people, because everybody I run into mirrors me in some way, as I started to run into that situation, I started to see myself clearer and clearer and clearer. So it became more and more apparent that I need to take care of me first, and then I'd be better able to take care of the people that I serve.
That's so interesting. And I love that like our journeys had these parallels because just the idea of big systems and not serving the people that serve in them, but also not serving the people they serve at the same time,
Yeah.
like properly. Like it's the most weirdest thing. And I know we've discussed this dichotomy before because it's always like it's unhealthy to be on either side. Either you're the person providing the service within the system, you're not feeling healthy and loved and getting the love from the system, you're also the person who's supposed to be getting the service, and you're like, "Wait a second, this isn't working for me either." And I think that with, when I chose this path, it's very similar to you. Someone told me I had been down the road. Well, I guess I first thought about helping others and serving when I was a peer social worker kind of in middle school. So I was really young. And that I didn't know what social work was. I was just like a peer support person. I didn't like understand that I was already in social work. It was kind of funny. And then I went to college for it was psychology, but like cognitive psychology. So not at all working with patients, but we're working with like, research and things like that. And then at some point in a practicum or an internship, one of the women goes, I think you're actually more of like a social worker. And other people had been trying to convince me to go to law school, to like to go do a PhD, like do all these different things. And I was like, oh, let's look into this social work thing. And as soon as I started looking into it, I was like, okay, I like this, but I don't like people. And that was the funny part. I'm like, I like people, but I don't want to do like a people facing everyday kind of role because that is a lot. And like you said with the babies, like, your limitation at some point wasn't there. And I realized that before I even went to school. And I said, let me find a program that allows me to serve on a macro level. And so I chose a macro level social work program, went to Columbia, did that, and then went into policy because that was exactly in my brain, like you said, how I could reach the most people or how I could have the biggest impact. And it just, I mean, and I did. I had an impact of meeting and serving thousands of people over the course of my career. And it's amazing and it's awesome. And I gave away millions of dollars and fantastic. But at the same time, I never saw any of those people. But I saw it went like the total other way where you're like, oh, I don't want to really see people every day, but I also want to see people sometimes.
Yes,
And
yes.
so in this like coaching, entrepreneurship, holistic business coaching, it's nice because you do some projects where you're kind of doing things. You're maybe not seeing people. Like we've been working on ads, and thousands of people are seeing our faces. We've not met any of those people yet. But
Yeah.
other times you're working one on one with your clients and you're really seeing transformation. And so I just wanted to leave this live with two examples from each of our businesses of like, what does transformation look like for your clients? And how are we like going to be bringing that to the event?
Yeah.
So kick it off.
The biggest thing, most of my clients experience is like profound self-awareness, recognizing how powerful they really are. You know, because a lot of times we get trapped in our own head and we play these stories in our own minds that we can't do this, or we're waiting for something where there's no way, or, whatever the narrative is. And through working with me, I'm very good at parroting or almost mirroring those thought process, because I know those thought process. Because like I said, everybody I meet mirrors me in some way. And so I do a good job of being that mirror for other people so they can realize how to get themselves out of those ruts as well. And so, there's a few different techniques, that I do use consistently in the way that I work with my clients. But I use a framework, and it's called the Triple E framework, that goes through that takes you to the evolution of who you're supposed to be in the next version of what your existence is supposed to be. And so, yeah, that's my thing. How about
I
you?
love it. Oh my God. It's so amazing. And I think people will instantly hear why we work so well together. Because those are the kinds of things that I love. I love to go through those processes where you're coming out on the other side and it's like just you've transformed and elevated yourself to a new level. I think from my clients, a lot of the times because I'm a generator. So I'm really good at the strategy and the how does this work and like dig in and look at it and be like, yeah, that analytically, there's missing these pieces here and here. So a lot of the times I just let my clients brain dump and I'm like, give me all that you got. Like if it's muddled around in your brain and it's like not sorted out and it's a half baked idea, like let's work through the process of it. Let's get it organized. Let's get you moving and find a point that you can be successful entering into this vision that you have.
Yeah.
And on the other side, the transformation will come when you're consistently working towards it. But that consistency is so hard for people. So I help them break it down to what are the steps that need to happen? What are your top three priorities that go through a whole process called idea surgery, which you know about because you heard me talk about it before, but others may not have heard of it. And we just work through in a mind mapping process, but also through a series of coaching conversations and prompts and really digging into how can you move from point A to point B with the least resistance, but also allowing for space in your life to like thrive as a human, right? So still pick up your kids at 2 and still go to the gym when you want to, like, to be able to pay down your credit card debt, like whatever the 8 dimensions of wellness that I use as a framework for my work, whatever those things that bring you joy into those dimensions of your life, like it's still making space for that, even though you're working towards this goal. And so one of my clients, I just met with her. We did like a year end. So this is like the end of our coaching, but we're gonna like move into different phase. And I said, okay, let's look at your website. And we looked at all her metrics. And she just had done so amazing throughout the year, booking clients, started out with no website, hadn't even, she has an art bus. So she hadn't even driven on the bus when we first started working together. The bus hadn't even started rolling yet. And
Uh,
she ended up at the end of the year having a 250-person event at Meta's offices in DC. They
Right.
found her from her website, used her little contact form that we built and like got her booked in a contract. So she just did so amazing this year. And I was just like, how do you feel? You had none of this at the beginning of the year. And she was just like, I mean, it feels so great, but like almost like still had that like sense of like, is this me? Did I do it? Like that little bit of imposter syndrome of like, did I really do it? Like, am I really? And I'm like, dude, you did it. Like, let's just celebrate. You did it. So that whole way from the like, I have this idea and I need to get it done, but I don't know how to like the build of the website to how do you look at your analytics to all of those conversations were pieces that I supported her through. And so at the end of it, I was just like, we totally did it. Like, let's celebrate because there's no question.
It's just so fun to And it's, sometimes I think it is hard for the client to see the transformation, but when you're on the outside watching the transformation of the client in real time, it's absolutely one of the most beautiful, like, moments, especially when they hit milestones. You see what I'm saying? Like, you'd be like, "This is a milestone. Yay, you posted your first piece of content," right? And then, like,
You know how often I celebrate content? Man, I'm like, your reel was so good. I'm liking it all. Okay. Comment to not hit. I mean, I am that coach who's like stalking my clients. All of them have the little bells ticked.
yes, yes, yes. So just to celebrate those moments, I think are just some of the most beautiful. I think for me, like, that's my why. Like, just to have those moments with people and to see them change and to progress and to see them get what they're trying to get to. That's just the most, like, most bubbly feeling in the world. I don't know. I love it.
I love it too. I love it. And I love it when my clients are like, "Did you see I made content?" And they're sending me the content and they're proud of
Yes.
the content. I mean, it's just so good. Everybody's all happy about the milestones. So I love that when you create those change processes for people when things become easier and then you see the consistency and you're like, it's taken root. It's not just that one time you created the content, but now you're consistently like you're on the game of leveling up your own content now and you're putting out better content. Every time I see it, it's getting better. I'm excited for you. It's
Yes.
that like sustainable change in that person's business that I'm interested in. And like, how can this process be less burdensome for you so that you can do it consistently? You can get more clients and it feels fun or it feels like rewarding because you got the outcome you wanted.
Yes.
Um, so those are the kinds of things we're going to be talking about at the event. We'll do a quick little plug for our event because we could talk forever about everything and not plug ourselves. Of course, I'll put the banner back up at the website, but it is an event for women who are entrepreneurs who can drive, walk, fly. We don't care to the Maryland area. We're going to be in Germantown, Maryland, at a beautiful venue called Black Rock Arts Center for the Arts. What do you want to say about the event, just to kind of welcome folks and let folks know what's going on?
I am so excited. Like, between the empanadas and the mimosas at the end, like, I am just so excited. I want to celebrate us. I want to celebrate whoever's going to be in community with us. I, we're going to do the headshots, which, chef's kiss. Like, who could not use a good headshot? I just cut my hair. So this is going to be my first headshot with no hair.
I know. I just went more like red from having blonde highlights. So I got to figure out what I'm going to do with my hair for these. I mean, I got to figure out an outfit. We got the whole thing. I think the thing I'm most excited about is just how it's come together with the concept and the folks behind it. My two interns have been helping us out. Bree and Charlene have been amazing. And then also our homeboy Justin, who's been helping us with the ads all the
Oh
way
my
from the
God.
Philippines. Justin is like killing it. We've got like an amazing team behind this, y'all. And it's not just me and you. Like we're the ones here on the flyer who are out on the ad, but it's not just the two of us. It's just got a whole team. And I'm excited how it's just even in that team, people have been saying, "Oh my God, I really want to come to this event. I'm really excited to be at this event and just be together." Right? It's this idea of community and coming together. And that's really what my goal is going to be for the next year is how to keep building these communities,
Yeah.
whether it's online or, whatever virtual types of things. We're going to be doing a LinkedIn audio in this week too. Those types of community events are amazing connections for networking, for learning from other entrepreneurs, for supporting other businesses, and for particularly supporting other women-owned businesses. So that's the thing that I'm most excited about is being able to come together and learn about other people that you could refer to, that you can support in different ways. Um, Definitely excited about some mimosas and some empanadas. Then hearing about that, we're also planning on having some door prizes and some other things going on. So we got a lot of tricks up our sleeves. There may or may not be some crystals going on that day. Never know. Never know with the two of us. So I think it's gonna be really fun. I have not done, I think, an in-person event like this ever. So this is gonna be a good one. I'm
Yes.
excited.
I'm
So
excited.
yeah, so hopefully folks will come on in. The URL is here. We have a coupon right now. I should put the code up. It's capital letters manifest now, and you get $100 off of registration. So that is going out around. I'll make sure I put it in the comments for the live in case anybody watches the replay wants to get in the door. And yeah, let's close it on up and let's go and hang out and enjoy our evening.
Yeah.
So, what do you want to say to close up your this is the first time I'm sure you'll be back on the podcast. It's the first time you're on the podcast. Anything you want to say to our podcast audience or our live audience anything you want. Go ahead.
Oh man, what's that? What?
Final message. You get what? I'll do one after, so you're not the final. Don't worry.
All right, follow me on Instagram at Cannabis Nursing Solutions. I'm also at Ashley Gets It Done. That's all I got.
And Ashley is a founder of both Cannabis Nursing Solutions and Let's Bake Night. And she is my partner for Elevate Her Worth, which is our event that is coming up. It is a holistic energy reset for entrepreneurs. And it will be here in Germantown, Maryland, which is where we both sort of reside in the Maryland area. So hopefully if you're in the DMV and you want to come out, please let us know. And we'll be happy to have you there and greet you and bring you your mimosa. So thanks for everyone for this wonderful season of the Social Impact Level Up podcast. This has been just amazing to interview so many different people. Like I said, we have a couple of bonus episodes coming up. So you'll see a few more episodes that'll come out, but this is officially our close for the season. We'll start season 3 in a few months. We'll have all new episodes with all new people coming to interview, and it'll be amazing. So good to see you all again. And thanks for being here. Thanks for listening to our podcast and being part of our life. Take care, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Social Impact Level Up podcast. It's been awesome to interview today's guest, and I hope that you leave inspired to take action. If you're looking for any information we discussed in today's episode, it's probably down in the show notes. Make sure that you're checking that out and clicking on any of the links that seem amazing to you. If you need support building your business or your nonprofit, book a one-on-one call with me. The link's also down in the show notes. Thanks for being part of the Social Impact Level Up Collective, and get ready for season 3 coming up this spring.